I once thought my husband Dante loved me more than anything in the world. 5 years of marriage, building our dream life at his family vineyard. I was so excited to tell him about our baby on our anniversary night. But then I heard him in his office with my cousin Elisabetta. They were talking about me like I was already dead. The accident needs to look convincing, he said. My own husband planned to kill me for my family's money. My cousin laughed when I confronted them. They had been lovers the whole time, even before our wedding. I ran into the storm that night, crying and heartbroken. When my brakes failed on that mountain road, I knew. This was the accident they planned. My car flew off the cliff as I screamed his name. I never thought I would get a second chance at life. I never dreamed I would wake up as a mafia wife with the power to make them pay dearly. Valentina Russo adjusts her pearl necklace in the mirror, her hands trembling slightly with excitement. Tonight marks her 5th wedding anniversary with Dante, heir to the prestigious Rixai vineyards. The celebration at their countryside estate promises to be magical, with string lights illuminating the vineyard rows and champagne flowing freely. She touches her still flat stomach, smiling at the secret she's been keeping for 2 weeks, the child they've been trying for since their wedding day. The guests arrive in waves, offering congratulations and expensive gifts. Dante plays the role of doting husband perfectly, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist as they greet the elite of Italian society. "You are radiant tonight, mia cara," he whispers, kissing her cheek. She believes him completely. As the celebration peaks, Valentina notices Dante slip away with her cousin Elisabetta. Following a strange instinct, she excuses herself from a conversation and walks toward Dante's office. The door is ajar, voices filtering through. The accident needs to look convincing. Dante's voice is clinical, devoid of emotion. We can't risk anything tracing back to us. How long after until we can access her family's money? Elisabetta asks, her voice chillingly familiar. The inheritance passes to me immediately. The old fool made sure the prenup protected her, not knowing I'd be protected by her death instead. Valentina's champagne glass slips from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The voices inside go silent. When she pushes open the door, she faces her husband and cousin staring at her with expressions that shift from shock to cold calculation. "Valentina," Dante recovers quickly. "You misunderstood. I heard everything," she interrupts, voice breaking. 5 years of marriage and it was all for my family's money?" Elisabetta laughs, the sound like broken glass. "He never loved you. We've been together since before your wedding. You were just too blind to see it." Dante's face hardens. "Don't make a scene. Nobody will believe you anyway. Everyone knows about your family history of mental instability." The revelation cuts deeper than the betrayal. He'd researched her family's private history to use against her. In that moment, Valentina realizes how thoroughly she's been played. She flees into the stormy night, ignoring the calls of confused guests. Rain lashes against her as she reaches her car, hands shaking as she fumbles with the keys. Lightning illuminates her tear-streaked face in the rearview mirror as she speeds away down the winding mountain road. Her phone rings. Dante. Against her better judgment, she answers. "Valentina, please, come back, we can talk about this." His voice sounds genuinely concerned. For a fleeting moment, she considers turning back. Then she notices headlights following at a distance and remembers their conversation. The accident needs to look convincing. When she presses the brake approaching a sharp curve, the pedal sinks to the floor without resistance. Her car accelerates instead of slowing, heading straight for the guardrail. "You did this," she whispers into the phone as the car breaks through the barrier. The last thing she feels is weightlessness as the car plunges into darkness, and the last thing she thinks is, "I should have seen it coming." If only I had another chance. Valentina jolts awake with a gasp, heart pounding. Instead of impact or darkness, she finds herself in a massive four-poster bed draped with silk sheets. This isn't her bedroom. This isn't her body. The mirror across the room reflects a woman with sharp cheekbones, fuller lips, and piercing blue eyes framed by black hair, nothing like Valentina's soft features and chestnut curls. A reflection that isn't hers yet moves when she does. The bedroom door opens, and a tall man with broad shoulders enters. His face bears a scar running from temple to jaw, and his eyes hold the coldness of someone who has seen and caused too much death. You're finally awake, he says, his Russian accent thick. The doctor said the blow to your head might cause confusion. Do you know who I am? She shakes her head slowly, genuinely lost. I'm Nikolai Volkov, your husband. His lips curl into something between a smile and a sneer. Though you seem to forget that when you disappeared 6 months ago with your lover. The pieces click together slowly. She's in someone else's body, a woman named Aurora Vega who apparently abandoned her marriage to a man who exudes dangerous power from every pore. I don't remember, she says truthfully. I don't remember anything. Nikolai studies her face for signs of deception. Convenient, very convenient, Aurora. He turns to leave but pauses at the door. The doctor said memories might return gradually. Until then, you're welcome to stay. After all, legally you're still my wife. But don't mistake my hospitality for forgiveness. After he leaves, Valentina explores the penthouse apartment, finding Aurora's personal items, designer clothes, jewelry worth millions, and a locked phone she can't access. In a hidden compartment of a jewelry box, she discovers a diary and a USB drive. The diary reveals Aurora was no ordinary mafia wife. She'd been investigating financial discrepancies within Nikolai's organization, suspecting an inside job. The last entry, dated 6 months ago, mentions following a lead that could expose everything. A maid enters, startling her. Mrs. Volkov, you have a meeting with the financial team in an hour. Mr. Volkov insists you attend since you've returned. Valentina nods, hiding her panic. She has no choice but to play along until she understands what's happening. She dresses in Aurora's clothes, applies makeup to a face she doesn't recognize, and steels herself for the meeting. The Volkov organization headquarters occupies the top floors of a gleaming skyscraper. When the elevator doors open, Valentina freezes. Across the conference room stands a man who makes her blood run cold, Dante Rixai, identical to the husband who betrayed her, though here he goes by Darius Reeves, chief financial officer. And beside him, wearing a legal team badge, is Elisabetta, here called Elizabeth Banks. They look at Aurora with thinly veiled contempt. Neither recognizes Valentina behind Aurora's face, but she recognizes them instantly. Same faces, same proximity, same secretive glances between them. Welcome back, Mrs. Volkov, Dante/Darius says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. We were beginning to think you'd never return. In that moment, Valentina understands with perfect clarity. She's been given a second chance. In this life, history is repeating itself, but this time she sees the betrayal coming before it happens. This time, she won't be the victim. Over the next week, Valentina immerses herself in Aurora's life, learning her passwords, routines, and relationships. She discovers Aurora was not the unfaithful wife Nikolai believes she was. The affair was a cover for meeting an FBI agent named Daniel Foster, who specializes in organized crime. Carefully, she accesses Aurora's encrypted email account and finds correspondence with Agent Foster. Aurora had discovered massive embezzlement within the organization and was gathering evidence. The last message sent the day she disappeared read simply, "They know. Not safe. Will contact when I can." Valentina arranges a discreet meeting with Foster at a public park. The agent is shocked to see her alive. "We thought they'd killed you," he says, keeping his voice low. "What happened?" "I don't remember," she replies honestly. "But I know they're still stealing and they're planning something bigger." "They who?" "We need names: Aurora, Darius Reeves, and Elizabeth Banks. They're working together, romantically involved in stealing millions." Foster's expression darkens. "We suspected as much but couldn't prove it. They've covered their tracks well. And I believe they tried to kill me when I got too close." Foster nods grimly. "Your accident was no accident. Car went off the road, but rescue teams never found your body. Volkov nearly tore the city apart looking for you. The parallels to her previous life are chilling. Another accident orchestrated by the same souls wearing different names." Valentina feels her resolve harden. "I need to go back in," she tells Foster. "I can get the evidence we need." It's too dangerous. They'll try again if they suspect you remember anything. They won't, she insists. I have an advantage they can't possibly understand. Later that night, Nikolai finds her on the penthouse balcony, staring at the city lights. Something in her demeanor has changed since her return, a quiet confidence that intrigues him. Why did you really come back? He asks bluntly. Valentina turns to face him, seeing him clearly for the first time. Behind the dangerous exterior is a man bound by a code of honor, brutal and unforgiving, but consistent. Unlike Dante, who wore the mask of devotion while plotting her death, Nikolai wears his darkness openly. Because this is where I belong, she answers, surprising herself with how true it feels. And because there are traitors in your organization who need to be exposed, his eyes narrow. What do you know? Enough to be dangerous, but I need more proof. She steps closer. They tried to kill me, Nikolai, and they're stealing from you. Names, he demands. Not yet. When I have irrefutable evidence, you'll be the first to know. She meets his gaze unflinchingly. Until then, I need you to trust me. Trust is earned, he says coldly. Then let me earn it. She takes his hand, a bold move that catches him off guard. Let everyone believe we're reconciling. It will give me the access I need. He studies her face, searching for deception and finding only determination. If this is another game, Aurora. It's not a game, she interrupts. It's justice. Something shifts in his expression, a spark of respect, perhaps even admiration. Very well, we play it your way, for now. Across the city in a luxury apartment purchased with stolen money, Darius pours champagne for Elizabeth. She's back and she's acting strange. We need to be careful. Elizabeth sips her champagne, unconcerned. She has amnesia, according to our sources. Even if she remembered anything, who would believe her over us? Nikolai might if she plays her cards right. Darius stares out the window. We should accelerate our timeline. The gala is in 3 weeks. We stick to the plan. Elizabeth's smile turns cruel. And if Aurora becomes a problem again, we make sure she stays gone this time. With Nikolai's tacit approval, Valentina begins her investigation in earnest. She plays the role of returning wife seeking redemption, keeping Darius and Elizabeth close while gathering evidence of their crimes. She discovers they've been siphoning funds through ghost companies, preparing for a major move against Nikolai. The organization's annual gala is approaching, an event where all key players will be present. According to documents she uncovers in Darius's office, that's when they plan to eliminate Nikolai and seize control. Meanwhile, her relationship with Nikolai evolves in unexpected ways. Despite his initial coldness, he begins to show glimpses of the man beneath the mafia boss exterior. A man betrayed too many times to trust easily, yet still capable of fierce loyalty. One night, after a particularly tense meeting where she expertly outmaneuvered Darius's attempt to undermine a legitimate business deal, Nikolai confronts her in their private elevator. You're different, he says abruptly. The Aurora who left 6 months ago would never have handled that situation like you did. Perhaps I needed to lose everything to understand what matters, she replies carefully. He steps closer, his presence filling the small space. And what matters to you now, Aurora? She meets his gaze without flinching. Justice, loyalty, truth. Each word carries the weight of her experiences across 2 lives. Something shifts in his expression, respect, mixed with cautious hope. That night, for the first time, he stays in their bedroom instead of the separate suite he's occupied since her return. The next day, disaster strikes. While reviewing financial documents in Aurora's private office at home, Valentina hears the door open. She looks up to find Darius standing there, eyes cold. Working late? He asks with false casualness. What is you so interested in the Cayman accounts? Just refreshing my memory, she replies smoothly. Amnesia has its challenges. He moves closer, examining the papers on her desk. Curious how selective your memory loss seems to be. You remember passwords but not your lover. What do you want, Darius? He leans down, voice dropping to a whisper. I want you to stop digging Valentina. Her blood freezes at the name, her real name from her previous life. What did you call me? His smile is triumphant. You slipped last week. Called me Caro when you were angry, an Italian endearment only one woman ever used. He straightens. I don't know what game you're playing, but you're not as clever as you think. I don't know what you're talking about, she insists, mind racing. No, then why do your eyes show recognition when you look at me? Why do you flinch when Elizabeth touches your shoulder, exactly how Valentina used to when her cousin Elisabetta came too close? His eyes narrow. Who are you really? Before she can respond, the door opens again and Nikolai enters. Darius steps back smoothly, his demeanor instantly professional. Just clarifying some numbers with your wife, he explains. I'll have the full report tomorrow. After he leaves, Nikolai studies her pale face. What really happened? Valentina calculates her options and chooses a partial truth. He threatened me. They're planning something at the gala, Nikolai, something big. Nikolai's expression darkens. Perhaps it's time we take more direct action. That night, Valentina contacts Agent Foster urgently. They're getting suspicious. We need to move faster. We've been monitoring their accounts, Foster confirms. They're liquidating assets, preparing to run after whatever they're planning at the gala. We'll be ready. What neither of them knows is that Elizabeth has been following Valentina. She watches the meeting from a distance, takes photos, and returns to Darius with proof of Aurora's betrayal. She's working with the FBI, she tells him, showing the images. We need to eliminate her now before she ruins everything. Darius considers this. No, we use this. Nikolai still has feelings for her. When he discovers she's betrayed him again, he'll be vulnerable, distracted. And if she exposes us first, she won't get the chance. He picks up his phone. I know exactly how to handle this, the same way we handled Valentina. 2 days before the gala, Valentina narrowly escapes an attempted hit disguised as a mugging. The bullet grazes her arm instead of finding her heart, and she manages to fight off her attacker. When she returns to the penthouse bloodied but alive, Nikolai's concern is palpable beneath his fury. As his personal doctor stitches her wound, Nikolai paces the bedroom. This ends now. Tell me everything. Valentina makes a decision. I need to show you something first. She retrieves the USB drive from its hiding place and plugs it into her laptop. The screen fills with financial records, photos, and recorded conversations. Months of evidence Aurora gathered before her disappearance. Darius and Elizabeth have stolen over $50 million from the organization, she explains. They've been planning to take control for years. The gala is when they'll make their move, an assassination disguised as a rival hit. Nikolai's expression remains impassive, but his eyes burn with cold rage. And your meetings with the FBI agent? Yes, I know about those. She doesn't flinch. Aurora, I discovered this conspiracy months ago. The FBI offered protection in exchange for information, but only about the embezzlement, not your other businesses. So you're an informant, his voice drops dangerously. I'm your wife, she counters, meeting his gaze steadily. And I chose to protect you instead of running. That's why they tried to kill me 6 months ago and why they tried again today. A tense silence stretches between them. Finally, Nikolai speaks. If what you say is true, why not come to me directly? Would you have believed me over your CFO without proof? She gestures to the screen. Now you have proof. He studies the evidence, his expression hardening with each document. What do you propose? Let them think their plan is working. At the gala, we spring our trap instead. For the first time since she's known him, Nikolai smiles genuinely, a predator who sees prey within reach. Perhaps I underestimated you, Aurora. Most people do, she replies softly. That's their mistake. The night of the gala arrives. The grand ballroom of Volkov Tower glitters with wealth and power, criminal organizations, corrupt officials, and legitimate business partners mingling in a display of the empire Nikolai has built. Valentina enters on his arm, dressed in a blood-red gown that makes her look both beautiful and dangerous. Her eyes immediately find Darius and Elizabeth across the room, watching her with barely concealed hostility. Throughout the evening, she plays her role perfectly. The devoted wife, attentive and charming. Nikolai never leaves her side, his hand possessively at the small of her back. To all appearances, they are a power couple reunited. As midnight approaches, Valentina notices the subtle signals passing between Darius and several security guards. Men she knows from Aurora's notes are not loyal to Nikolai. The plan is in motion. She excuses herself to powder her nose, giving Darius the opportunity he's been waiting for. As expected, he follows her into a quiet corridor. "You should have stayed dead," he says without preamble. She turns to face him, no longer hiding her recognition. "Just like Valentina should have. Did you think fate would let you get away with it twice?" His eyes widen slightly. "So it is you. How is this possible? Does it matter? You're still a traitor and a murderer in any life." He reaches inside his jacket for a weapon, she assumes, but freezes at the sound of multiple footsteps approaching. Agent Foster appears from one end of the corridor with FBI agents, while Nikolai approaches from the other, flanked by his most trusted men. "Perfect timing," Valentina says calmly. "Shall we rejoin the party? I believe I have an announcement to make." The ballroom falls silent as Valentina takes the stage, Nikolai at her side. Darius and Elizabeth are brought forward, confused and angry, as Foster and his agents secure the perimeter. "Ladies and gentlemen," Valentina begins, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "I want to thank you for joining us on this special night, though it's not quite the event some were expecting." She activates a large screen behind her, displaying financial records, photographs, and surveillance footage. For the past 3 years, Darius Reeves and Elizabeth Banks have been systematically stealing from this organization. Tonight, they plan to assassinate Nikolai Volkov and seize control. Murmurs spread through the crowd as she continues. "What they didn't count on was that I would return from the dead to stop them." Elizabeth lunges forward. "She's lying. She's the traitor working with the FBI." "Yes, I spoke with the FBI," Valentina acknowledges calmly. "After I discovered your embezzlement, but there's something even more interesting." She nods to Foster, who approaches with official-looking documents. "According to federal records," Valentina continues, "Darius Reeves and Elizabeth Banks have been confidential informants for the past 5 years, providing information on everyone in this room in exchange for immunity." The accusation falls like a bomb in the room filled with criminals. In their world, there is no greater betrayal than cooperating with law enforcement. Darius and Elizabeth pale visibly as hostile eyes turn toward them. "That's impossible," Darius protests desperately. "She's making this up. She's not even Aurora. She's someone else, someone named Valentina." His wild claim only makes him appear more unhinged. Valentina smiles coldly. Grasping at straws, Darius, "First I'm FBI, now I'm a ghost named Valentina." Nikolai steps forward. The evidence speaks for itself. Darius Reeves and Elizabeth Banks are guilty of theft, conspiracy, and betrayal. His voice drops to a deadly calm. "In our world, such crimes have consequences." As Nikolai's men move to take the traitors away, Valentina requests a private moment with them. In a side room away from prying ears, she finally reveals the full truth. "You killed me once," she tells them, her voice barely above a whisper. "Valentina Russ, your wife, your cousin, pushed off a cliff on her anniversary night for her inheritance." "You're insane," Elizabeth hisses, but her eyes show fear. "Am I?" Valentina leans closer. "The night you planned my accident, Dante, you wore your grandfather's cufflinks, the ones with the olive branch design. You only wore them on special occasions." Darius pales. "How could you possibly?" "And Elisabetta," she continues, turning to Elizabeth, "you always twisted your hair around your finger 3 times before telling a significant lie. Just like you did when you told Valentina you'd never betray her." The blood drains from Elizabeth's face. "This is impossible. Yet here we are." Valentina straightens. "Different names, different world, same souls, and this time justice finds you." She turns to leave, then pauses at the door. "I died wishing for a chance to make things right. Be careful what you wish for in your final moments, you might get it too." Later that night, after the FBI has taken custody of the evidence against various criminal enterprises, though notably not against Nikolai directly, Valentina stands on the penthouse balcony. Nikolai joins her, offering a glass of vodka. "The FBI agent told me what you negotiated," he says. "Immunity for us in exchange for evidence against our competitors. Clever." "It seemed fair," she replies. "They get what they want, we get what we want." "And what do you want, Aurora, or should I call you Valentina?" She turns to him, surprised. "You heard. I hear everything in my own home." He sips his vodka. "I don't understand how it's possible, but I believe you." You've been different since you returned, stronger, more determined. In my first life, I was naive, she admits. I trusted blindly and paid the ultimate price. And now, do you trust me? She considers him carefully. I trust that you are exactly who you appear to be. There's honesty in that, at least. He nods, accepting this. Your bargain with the FBI gives us a fresh start. We can leave this life behind if you wish. The offer surprises her. Would you do that for the right reason? His eyes hold hers. You've earned your revenge. What comes next is your choice. Valentina looks out at the city lights, considering her options. In her first life, she never had real power or agency. In this one, she holds both. I think, she says slowly, that this time around, I'd like to build something that lasts. She places her hand over her stomach in a gesture that doesn't escape Nikolai's notice. His expression softens with understanding. A legacy, he agrees. Something better than what came before. As they stand together overlooking the city that is now theirs to reshape, Valentina feels the final pieces of her past life fade away. The woman who died on that mountain road has found her justice. The woman who stands here now has found something she never expected, a future. In my second life, she muses, raising her glass, I didn't just survive. I found justice, power, and perhaps even love. Some call it fate. Nikolai completes her thought, clinking his glass against hers. Others call it making them pay dearly. She smiles, a genuine smile that reaches her eyes. I'll drink to that. 6 months later, Valentina stands in her office at the newly renovated Volkov Tower, overlooking the city that has become her domain. The criminal elements of Nikolai's empire have been gradually transitioned into legitimate businesses, thanks to her strategic vision and his connections. Their partnership has proven unexpectedly powerful. A gentle kick from within reminds her of another partnership coming to fruition. She places a hand on her swollen belly, smiling at the thought of the daughter they'll welcome in just a few weeks. After losing everything in her previous life, including the chance at motherhood, this second chance feels like a miracle she never expected. Her assistant knocks softly before entering. Mrs. Volkov, the investors are waiting in the conference room. And Mr. Volkov just arrived. Valentina nods, gathering the presentation materials. This meeting represents the culmination of months of work, transforming what was once a money laundering operation into a legitimate investment firm that will support charitable foundations across the city. Nikolai meets her at the elevator, his eyes warming at the sight of her. The scar on his face has faded slightly, much like the harder edges of his personality. He still commands fear and respect in equal measure, but with Valentina at his side, he's found a balance he never thought possible. Ready? He asks, offering his arm. Always, she replies, stepping into the elevator with him. The conference room falls silent as they enter together. The investors, many former criminal associates now going legitimate, rise in respect. Valentina recognizes several faces from the gala 6 months ago, the night she exposed Darius and Elizabeth's betrayal. As she begins her presentation, showing projected returns and community impact assessments, she catches Nikolai watching her with unconcealed pride. In her previous life, Dante only ever looked at her with calculation, seeing her as a means to an end. The difference still strikes her sometimes, leaving her momentarily breathless with gratitude for this second chance. After the meeting, when the investors have left satisfied and committed to the venture, Nikolai approaches with a small velvet box. A gift, he says simply, for our new beginning. Inside lies a necklace of platinum and diamonds, elegant but understated, nothing like the ostentatious pieces Aurora used to wear. It's beautiful, she whispers. I had it made specially, he explains as he fastens it around her neck. New jewelry for your new life, nothing from before. The gesture touches her deeply. Nikolai understands, without her having to explain, that she wants nothing from Aurora's previous life, just as she wanted nothing from Valentina's. This is her third existence in many ways, crafted entirely on her own terms. That evening, as they dine on the penthouse terrace, Valentina receives a news alert on her phone. The headline makes her breath catch. Former financial executive found dead in prison cell. Nikolai notices her expression. Darius, She nods, showing him the article. Darius Reeves, convicted of embezzlement and conspiracy 6 months prior, had been found dead in his cell, apparently by suicide. The article mentions that his co-conspirator Elizabeth Banks had been transferred to a different facility following alleged threats against her life. "Are you all right?" Nikolai asks, studying her face. Valentina considers the question carefully. In her first life, she was the victim, her death orchestrated by these same souls. In this life, she orchestrated their downfall instead. Does Darius's death bring her satisfaction, closure? "I feel," she says slowly, "nothing. He has no power over me anymore in life or death." Nikolai nods, understanding the significance of her words. That is true freedom. Later that night, unable to sleep, Valentina stands at the nursery window, watching the city lights flicker like stars. The room is ready for their daughter, painted in soft colors with a hand-carved crib Nikolai commissioned from an Italian artisan. Everything new, everything untouched by past sins. She feels Nikolai's presence before he speaks, his footsteps silent even in their own home, the habit of a man who has lived much of his life in danger. "You should rest," he says, coming to stand beside her. "I was thinking about fate," she admits. About how souls might be connected across lives, destined to meet again and again until they get it right. "And have we gotten it right this time?" he asks, his hand finding hers in the darkness. "I think we're trying," she says. "That's more than I can say for my first life." He turns her gently to face him. "There's something I need to tell you about Elizabeth Banks." Valentina tenses. "What about her?" "She's being released next week. Prosecution's key witness in another case went missing. Without their testimony, the remaining charges couldn't stick. The news should disturb her, but strangely it doesn't." "Let her come," Valentina says simply. "She has no power here anymore." "I've arranged protection," Nikolai assures her. "She won't get within a mile of you or our daughter." Valentina appreciates his concern but feels no fear. "In my first life, I ran from them in terror and died for it. I won't make that mistake again." The next morning, as Valentina reviews quarterly reports in her home office, her secure phone rings, a line known only to a select few. She answers cautiously. "It's Foster," says the familiar voice of the FBI agent. "We need to talk." 20 minutes later, they meet in a quiet corner of a public park. Foster looks older somehow, the past months having etched new lines around his eyes. "Elizabeth Banks made a deal," he explains without preamble. "She's giving up names, dates, operations, everything she knows about the underground network still operational in the city." "That's your concern, not mine," Valentina replies coolly. "We've gone legitimate." "Mostly legitimate," Foster corrects with a knowing look. "But that's not why I called. She's been asking questions about you, about Aurora Vega before her disappearance, and about a woman named Valentina Russo." A chill runs through her despite the warm spring day. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that suggest she believes something impossible." Foster leans closer. "I've never asked you about that day in your office with Darius, about what you said to them before they were taken away. But Elizabeth claims you told them you were someone else reborn, someone they killed in another life." Valentina maintains her composure. "That sounds like the desperate fabrication of a woman facing prison. That's what I thought too." Foster studies her face. "Except she knew details about an Italian woman named Valentina Russ who died 5 years ago when her car went off a cliff on her anniversary night. A woman married to Dante Rixai, who inherited her family fortune after her death. A woman whose cousin Elisabetta married Dante less than a year later. The parallel makes her blood run cold." "Coincidences exist, Agent Foster." "Sure they do." He doesn't look convinced. "Just be careful. Elizabeth is obsessed with this theory. Claims you're some kind of avenging spirit. Crazy talk, obviously." He stands to leave. "But crazy people can be dangerous." After Foster departs, Valentina sits motionless, processing this new threat. Elizabeth remembers everything and believes the impossible truth. More dangerously, she's fixated on it enough to research Valentina's previous life, to connect dots no rational person would connect. When she returns to the penthouse, Nikolai is waiting, his expression telling her he already knows about the meeting. Foster told you about Elizabeth, she says, not bothering to pretend. Yes. His voice is tight with controlled anger. She'll be released tomorrow morning. I have men watching her. Valentina nods, appreciating his protectiveness but knowing it's not enough. Elizabeth is a different kind of threat, one who knows her deepest secret. There's something else you should know, she says slowly. Something I never told you about what I said to them that night. Nikolai listens without interruption as she explains everything. The full truth about Valentina Russo, about dying and waking in Aurora's body, about recognizing Dante and Elisabetta in Darius and Elizabeth. When she finishes, expecting disbelief or concern for her mental state, he simply takes her hand. I've known something extraordinary happened to you, he says quietly. The woman who returned to me was both Aurora and not Aurora. Stronger, wiser, as if forged by experiences beyond what any single life could teach. His acceptance brings tears to her eyes. You believe me. I believe in what I see, he says simply. And I see a woman who turned her tragedy into power. Whether that happened across one life or two matters less than what you do with it now. With his support renewed, Valentina makes a decision. She will not wait for Elizabeth to come after her. This time she will face her past head-on. I need to end this, she tells Nikolai. Once and for all. The day of Elizabeth's release dawns clear and bright, at odds with the tension Valentina feels as she reviews the security feed on her tablet. From the safety of Volkov Tower, she watches Elizabeth exit the prison gates, looking thinner but no less determined than she remembers. Unlike Darius, prison hasn't broken her spirit. In fact, Elizabeth appears more focused, her eyes scanning her surroundings with predatory awareness. She knows she's being watched, Nikolai observes, standing behind Valentina's chair. Of course she does, she expects it. Valentina zooms in on Elizabeth's face. She's waiting for us to make the first move. Nikolai's security team reports that Elizabeth checks into a modest hotel downtown, makes 3 phone calls from a burner phone they can't trace, and visits a storage facility where she retrieves a small package. All carefully choreographed actions of someone who knows the rules of surveillance. She's playing with us, Valentina says, setting down the tablet. We need to change the game. The plan she proposes is bold and dangerous. Nikolai objects immediately. You're 8 months pregnant. You're not meeting her alone. Not alone, Valentina corrects. Just not with an obvious security detail. She needs to believe she has the upper hand. After hours of argument, they reach a compromise. The meeting will happen at a small cafe where Valentina's security can blend with the crowd. Nikolai himself will be nearby, though not visible. Most importantly, Valentina will wear a bulletproof maternity vest beneath her loose dress, an uncomfortable but necessary precaution. The invitation is delivered to Elizabeth's hotel room. A simple note with a time and place, signed with just an elegant V that could stand for either Valentina or Volkov. The cafe is busy when Valentina arrives, taking a corner table with her back to the wall and a clear view of both entrances. She orders herbal tea and waits, one hand resting protectively over her unborn child, the other near the small emergency button Nikolai insisted she carry. Elizabeth arrives precisely on time, scanning the cafe before her eyes lock on Valentina. For a heartbeat, something like fear flickers across her face, as if seeing a ghost, before she composes herself and approaches. Aurora, she says, sliding into the chair opposite. Or should I call you Valentina? Names are just labels, Valentina replies calmly. We both know who we really are. Elizabeth orders coffee, her movements deliberate and controlled. When the server leaves, she leans forward. I've had a lot of time to think in prison, about impossible things becoming possible. Is that why you've been researching Valentina Russo, a woman you never met who died years ago in another country? I met her through you, Elizabeth says, her voice dropping. When you looked at me in that room and described things only Elisabetta would know, things from a life I never lived. Valentina stays silent, letting Elizabeth continue. I didn't believe it at first, thought it was some elaborate trick. Elizabeth stirs her coffee without drinking it. But the details were too specific, so I dug deeper, found records of Valentina Russo's death, photos of her with Dante. The resemblance to you is uncanny once you look past the physical differences. And now you believe? I believe something impossible happened. Elizabeth's eyes harden. What I don't understand is why. Why were you given a second chance when Darius wasn't? The question catches Valentina off guard. What do you mean, Darius is dead? Elizabeth's voice cracks slightly. Hung himself in his cell, but why? He was appealing his case. We had a plan. Valentina sees the grief beneath Elizabeth's anger, recognizing that despite everything, she had truly loved Darius, just as Elisabetta had loved Dante. Perhaps he didn't get a second chance because he didn't need one, Valentina suggests. He orchestrated my death in both lives. Justice found him in this one. Elizabeth's hand tightens around her coffee cup. And what about me? Do I get a second chance? That depends on why you're here. Valentina meets her gaze steadily. Are you looking for revenge or redemption? For a moment, raw honesty crosses Elizabeth's face. I don't know anymore. When Darius died, something broke in me. I made the deal with the FBI because I had nothing left to lose. You could start over, Valentina offers unexpectedly. Somewhere new with a clean identity. I have the resources to arrange it. Elizabeth's laugh is bitter. Why would you help me? I tried to kill you, twice apparently, because holding onto hatred nearly destroyed me in my first life. Valentina places both hands on her belly, feeling her daughter kick. I don't want that for my child's mother in this one. The gesture seems to affect Elizabeth deeply. She stares at Valentina's pregnant form with an unreadable expression. You lost a child when you died, she whispers. Didn't you? Valentina nods, surprised that Elizabeth knows this detail. I was going to tell Dante that night. He never knew. Elizabeth looks away. After you died, after Valentina died, Elisabetta found a pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. She never told Dante. She was afraid he might have regretted what they did if he knew. The revelation brings a strange closure Valentina hadn't realized she needed. Even in her first life, Elisabetta had recognized the magnitude of their crime. Elizabeth pushes back her chair suddenly. I need to go. I can't do this. Wait, Valentina says, you haven't told me what you want. What I want, Elizabeth laughs hollowly. I want this nightmare to end. I want to understand why the universe let you haunt me across lifetimes. I want to know if I'm doomed to pay for crimes I technically never committed. The Elizabeth Banks in this life chose to betray and kill Aurora Vega, Valentina points out. Those were your choices, not Elisabetta's. This gives Elizabeth pause. She sits back down slowly. So souls can change their paths. If that's true, then yes, I want redemption. I want out of this cycle. Valentina reaches into her purse and slides across a small flash drive. This contains everything you need: new identity, accounts in Switzerland, contacts who will help you disappear on one condition. Never contact you again, Elizabeth guesses. No, that you use this chance to be better, break the cycle. Elizabeth takes the drive, looking genuinely surprised. Why trust me? I don't, Valentina says honestly. But I'm choosing to give you the chance I never got. What you do with it is your burden, not mine. As Elizabeth stands to leave, she hesitates. For what it's worth, I am sorry, not just for what we did to Aurora, but for what they did to Valentina. No one deserves to die that way. No one deserves to die for someone else's greed, Valentina agrees. Remember that in your new life. After Elizabeth leaves, Nikolai joins Valentina at the table, his face tight with controlled anxiety. That was reckless. It was necessary, she counters. She needed to face me and I needed to face her. You gave her a new identity, he says, not bothering to hide that he'd been listening. After everything she did, I gave her a choice, Valentina corrects. The same one I was given when I woke up in Aurora's body. She can use it to run and hide, or she can use it to start over. And if she comes after us again, Valentina meets his eyes. Then we'll be ready, but I don't think she will. Some cycles are meant to be broken. That night, as they prepare for bed, Nikolai hands Valentina a secure phone. A message came through from our contact at the airport. Elizabeth Banks boarded a flight to Zurich an hour ago. Valentina nods, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She chose to leave. For now, Nikolai cautions. Trust but verify. Always, she agrees, thinking how different he is from Dante, who demanded blind trust while plotting betrayal. Nikolai's caution comes from a place of protection, not deception. As she drifts towards sleep, Valentina reflects on the strange journey that brought her here, from death to rebirth, from victim to victor. She places a hand on her belly, feeling her daughter's movements. "Your mother died once," she whispers to her unborn child. "But she came back stronger. Remember that when life tries to break you, we are harder to kill than they know." Nikolai, hearing her words, wraps his arm around her. "Our daughter will never need to learn that lesson the hard way. She has us to protect her. And to teach her," Valentina adds, turning in his embrace. "About justice, about consequences, about second chances. About making them pay dearly?" he asks with a raised eyebrow. She smiles against his chest. "Only when necessary, and about mercy when it's not." In the darkness of their bedroom, high above the city where her revenge played out, Valentina finally feels the cycle complete. The scared, betrayed woman who drove off a cliff no longer haunts her. The calculating Aurora Vega has fulfilled her purpose. This new woman, mother, wife, survivor, is entirely of her own making, and that perhaps is the sweetest revenge of all. 4 weeks later, Valentina cradles her newborn daughter in her arms, marveling at the perfect tiny features that somehow blend her own, Valentina's, not Aurora's, with Nikolai's. They named her Sophia after Valentina's grandmother from her first life, a small tribute to the woman she once was. The private hospital suite is filled with flowers and gifts from business associates and the legitimate partners who now form the core of their reformed empire. Even Agent Foster sent a small teddy bear with a note of congratulations, maintaining the strange alliance that began with Aurora's investigation. Nikolai enters carrying coffee, his normally intimidating presence softened by the gentle way he looks at his daughter. Fatherhood has revealed yet another layer to the complex man Valentina has come to love, a fierce protectiveness tempered with unexpected tenderness. The security team confirmed Elizabeth is still in Switzerland, he reports, handing Valentina the coffee before carefully taking Sophia into his arms. "She's living quietly in a small town near the mountains, using the identity you provided." "Good." Valentina sips her coffee, watching Nikolai with their daughter. "I meant what I said about second chances." "I know." He sits beside her on the bed. "But I'll still have her monitored for the next year, for Sophia's sake." She doesn't argue. His caution is one of the reasons they've survived this long. "Has there been any movement on the Darius investigation?" Nikolai shakes his head. "Officially ruled a suicide. The prison surveillance footage mysteriously corrupted. No one asking questions." They exchange a look that acknowledges what neither will say aloud, that Darius's death may not have been by his own hand. The prison housed many inmates with connections to their organization, men who would view eliminating Darius as a way to curry favor with Nikolai. He hadn't ordered it, but he hadn't prevented it either. "Sometimes justice finds its own path," Valentina says softly, running a finger along Sophia's cheek. The doctor arrives to check on both mother and baby, pronouncing them healthy and ready to go home the following day. When they're alone again, Valentina raises a subject they've been avoiding. "We need to discuss the christening," she says. "My family, Valentina's family, will be expecting an invitation." Nikolai looks up sharply. "That's dangerous." "What if they recognize you somehow?" "They won't. Valentina Russo died 5 years ago. Aurora Vega bears no physical resemblance to her." She meets his concerned gaze. "But they're still Sophia's family, even if they don't know it. I want her to know her heritage." "And what about Dante, Elisabetta? They'll likely attend any Russo family gathering." The question gives her pause. In the years since Valentina's death, according to the discreet investigations she's run, Dante and Elisabetta had indeed married and now ran the vineyard together. They had a child, a son, born almost exactly 9 months after Valentina's accident, conceived perhaps while they were still plotting her death. "I need to see them," she admits. "Not for revenge, for closure, to know that chapter is truly finished." Though reluctant, Nikolai eventually agrees to a modified plan. They will host Sophia's christening in Milan, inviting the Russo family without revealing any connection to Valentina. Instead, they'll present themselves as business associates interested in investing in Italian vineyards, including the Rixai estate. 2 months later, the plan unfolds in a centuries-old cathedral in Milan. The Volkovs, now operating primarily under Nikolai's legitimate business identity as Nicholas Vega, host an elegant christening for their daughter, followed by a reception at a historic villa overlooking the city. The guest list includes Italian business elite, carefully vetted associates, and the Russo family, who own several vineyards targeted for potential investment. Valentina watches through the crowd as her parents, older now and grayer than she remembers, admire baby Sophia in her christening gown. She has Russo eyes, her mother comments to Nikolai, unaware she's speaking about her own granddaughter. Very distinctive, that shade of amber. My wife's family had similar coloring, Nikolai replies smoothly, the practiced lie rolling easily off his tongue. The moment Valentina has both anticipated and dreaded arrives when Dante and Elisabetta Rixai enter the reception. They look prosperous and confident, their young son trailing behind them. Dante has aged well, still handsome in the way that first attracted Valentina to him. Elisabetta looks more severe than she remembers, motherhood having hardened rather than softened her features. Valentina approaches them in her role as hostess, her heart racing despite her calm exterior. Mr. and Mrs. Rixai, thank you for coming. I'm Aurora Vega. Dante takes her offered hand, smiling with practiced charm. The pleasure is ours. Your husband mentioned interest in our vineyard operations. Yes, we're diversifying our portfolio, she responds, studying his face for any sign of recognition and finding none. I've always had a particular interest in family businesses with, shall we say, historic foundations. Something in her tone makes Elisabetta look at her more closely. Have we met before? Your voice seems familiar. I don't believe so, Valentina smiles. But I've heard much about your family's history, including the tragic loss of Mr. Rixai's first wife. Dante's smile falters slightly. An unfortunate accident. Was it? Valentina asks innocently. I understood there were questions about the brake lines. The color drains from Elisabetta's face. Who told you that? Public records are fascinating reading, Valentina says lightly. Though sometimes the truth lies buried deeper, doesn't it? Dante's expression hardens. I'm not sure what you're implying, Mrs. Vega, but my first wife's death was thoroughly investigated and ruled accidental. Of course, Valentina agrees. Much like my own accident was initially believed to be fatal. Life is full of surprising second chances, don't you find? She excuses herself before they can respond, leaving them visibly unsettled. Throughout the remainder of the reception, she catches them watching her with growing unease, whispering urgently to each other in corners. Nikolai finds her on the villa's terrace, overlooking the Milan skyline. You couldn't resist, could you? I didn't expose them, she defends. I just wanted them to feel for a moment what I felt, the uncertainty, the fear of being discovered. He wraps an arm around her waist. And did it satisfy you? Valentina considers the question seriously, looking back through the windows at the gathering inside. Her parents are cradling Sophia, doting on a grandchild they don't know is theirs. Dante and Elisabetta stand apart from the crowd, their earlier confidence shaken. Not as much as I expected, she admits. They seem smaller somehow. Less important. Because they are, Nikolai says simply. They're ghosts from a life you've outgrown. The truth of his words settles over her. She has outgrown them, outgrown the pain, the betrayal, even the need for vindication. What remains is a quiet certainty that justice has been served in its own way across 2 lifetimes. Later that night in their hotel suite, Valentina feeds Sophia while watching the lights of Milan twinkle below. Nikolai brings her a glass of wine and settles beside them. Do you regret not telling your parents the truth? He asks. She shakes her head. What would I say? That I'm their daughter reborn in another woman's body? They wouldn't believe me, and if they did, it would only bring them pain. And the Rixus, do you regret not making them pay more dearly? They're already paying, she says, remembering the haunted look in Elisabetta's eyes. They'll spend the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders, wondering if I was just a strange woman with unsettling knowledge or something more supernatural coming back to haunt them. Nikolai smiles slightly. A psychological revenge. The most lasting kind, she agrees. Sophia falls asleep in her arms, peaceful and untroubled. Looking at her daughter's face, Valentina feels the final pieces of her past life truly release their hold. The cycle that began with betrayal and death has transformed into something unexpected, a family forged from the ashes of two broken lives. What now? Nikolai asks, gently taking the sleeping baby to place her in the bassinet. Valentina joins him at the window, leaning into his solid presence. Now we build something that matters, something worthy of this second chance. He turns her to face him. You already have, you built us. The simple truth of it brings tears to her eyes. From the lonely, betrayed woman driving off a cliff to this moment, strong, loved, purposeful, her journey has been extraordinary. Not just a rebirth, but a recreation of herself on her own terms. I think Valentina can rest now, she whispers. Her story has found its proper ending. Nikolai kisses her forehead. And Aurora's? She smiles, thinking of the fierce, suspicious woman whose body she inherited, whose life she transformed. Aurora was always a survivor. I think she'd approve of how I've used her strength. Together they look out at the city where Valentina's first life ended, now the place where her daughter's life has been blessed and celebrated. The symmetry feels right somehow, the circle complete. Ready to go home? Nikolai asks. Home. The word holds such different meaning now than it ever did in her first life. Not a place of hidden betrayals and false security, but a fortress built on hard-won trust and shared purpose. Yes, she says, taking his hand. I'm ready. As they prepare to return to their new life, Valentina glances one last time at Milan's skyline. Somewhere out there, Dante and Elisabetta are questioning everything they thought they knew about guilt and consequences. Somewhere, her parents are returning to their lives, having unknowingly held their granddaughter. And here, in this room, Sophia sleeps peacefully, the innocent embodiment of all second chances. In my first life, I thought love meant blind trust, Valentina reflects. In this one, I've learned it means seeing clearly and choosing anyway. Nikolai's arms tighten around her. To second chances, then, and making them pay dearly, she adds with a smile, but only when they deserve it. The future stretches before them, not perfect, not without challenges, but entirely their own. A life reborn from betrayal into something stronger. A revenge served not just by making others suffer, but by flourishing despite their worst attempts to destroy her. That, Valentina thinks as she watches her sleeping daughter, is the most satisfying revenge of all.